What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. Another special edition here, rolling along with the mock draft of all time, where we had gone through, we picked our rosters, and now we're picking our pay-per-view cards based off of the rosters we have available to us. Who are us and we? Well, I am Tony Mango, your host as always, and joining me as always are Robert DeFelice.
Hey!
And the man with the plan and the reins for this episode, Callum Wiggins.
It's me.
It's a me, Callum.
Yeah. Yep. This is it's my turn in the saddle to demonstrate how I book with 100 of the greatest wrestlers in WWE's history.
And if you know from the Review to a Kill series, it's pretty easy to be happiest in the saddle. Check out that series over at fanboysanonymous.com. If you don't know what movie it's from, watch all the episodes. So what we're doing here is we are carrying on with what we had done in the previous episode that you had most likely listened to first. If this is the first episode you're listening to, you're probably quite confused, but you've got a couple episodes that you can go back and check out. But we did our roster picks. We have our 100 people that we are working with. And I had gone through and I did my pay-per-view card. We were recording both of these on the same day. Callum's pay-per-view right after we just did mine on the 4th of October. This is getting released probably around the 4th of November, maybe a little bit after that. I'm not too sure about how the placement's going to be, but we are a month in advance. So keep that in mind if anything changes where it's like, oh, this character turned and they were so much better as a heel or babyface. Why didn't you factor that in? Because we didn't know. We don't even know what's happening with the draft tonight with the second half, the Monday Night Raw side of the draft. So Callum's got his list of people available that he can work with. He is going to create the best possible pay-per-view card that he can with these options available to him. There are no limits as far as how many matches he can have. He can throw in whatever types of gimmicks he wants. He can pick the era that these people are from. So if he is picking Mandy Rose with the blonde hair or Mandy Rose with the brunette hair, or if he is picking the larger Cassius Ohno or the Cassius Ohno that could have been in the Shield or whatever it might be with whatever his decisions go. He can break up the New Day. He can make new tag team members. He can put somebody in the main event that was never a main eventer just because he wants to give him a push. It's all up to Callum. So I'm going to pass this on to Callum to do as he sees fit.
Okay. So I guess I'll lay a few ground rules out at the very least. So I tried to keep it somewhat limited in terms of matches until I couldn't. And so I have ended up with a 2-night WrestleMania thing, much like Tony's, because it's just impossible to do it on one night with that amount of talent available. 19 matches across 2 nights. And a few of them are just like, I'm not going to hide it, thrown together things, but I will explain my thought process. I would first like to also talk about the fact that break down my championships, because I can change that up if I wanted to. So I decided to. So we have the WWE Heavyweight Championship, which is just the WWE Championship, but I have specifically said heavyweight because we also have a WWE Light Heavyweight Championship. I did not go with cruiserweight because I feel like cruiserweight is derogatory. I feel like heavyweight is more upstanding. I want to build it up into a division that could main event B-level pay-per-views. So I have an Intercontinental Championship and I have a United States Championship. I have the Women's Championship. I also have what I've dubbed the Liberty Championship, which is the women's Intercontinental equivalent.
Why Liberty?
I was going with some sort of thing which signaled either revolution or like freedom, and I thought Liberty sounded good because like Statue of Liberty, that type of thing. And I'd kind of model the title belt a bit like Statue of Liberty-esque. I don't know how I'd do that, but like,
you know what? I would like to see that title.
It's an equivalent of the United States Championship kind of deal. I like it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's essentially the women's mid-card title. I know they've got 2 men's ones as well, but like, I think that there's more men on my roster, so it makes sense in that regard. And then there is a WWE Tag Team Championship, and there is a Women's tag team championships. So I wanted to make sure that I just had those on there because they are all featuring on this card. There are gimmick matches, there are straight singles matches, there are multi-man matches, all going along. So I'll just dive straight into night one. Now, anyone that actually watched and listened to the main draft knows that I stacked my light heavyweight division pretty heavily. That was an area that I didn't initially go into the draft thinking about really stacking up, but then cards started falling my way. And even though I missed out on the likes of like Rey Mysterio and Dean Malenko and people like that would have really made it even greater than it is now, I ended up with some of the greatest light heavyweights in WWE's history. So on the pre-show, I wanted to take something that's kind of near and dear to my childhood, going all the way back to WrestleMania 20, where there was a Cruiserweight Open match, which was 10 men, all battling at that point for the Cruiserweight Championship. And so I've decided to kind of just recreate it as a number one contendership match for the Light Heavyweight Championship, because we'll see that match itself over on night 2. But this Light Heavyweight Open, as I'm calling it, would feature Buddy Murphy, Chavo Guerrero, Crash Holly, Jamie Noble, Jimmy Wang Yang, Lance Storm, Mustafa Ali, Taka Michinoku, Tyson Kidd, and Xavier Woods.
Huh.
Now there is a definitive reason why Xavier Woods is in this. I could not, for the life of me, figure out someone to go against New Day in a 6-man tag.
It's hard, right?
Because I had not drafted people that really suited. I could have thrown together, but I did not have a definitive 6-man team, like another 3-person team that I could really, without throwing people together. Like I could have put like Animal and Hawk with somebody, or Rick and Scott Steiner with somebody, or like if I'd have gone Pete Dunne, I could have done British Strong Style against them, but I didn't get Pete Dunne, so that was so it would have been a lot of people thrown together. So I do have something for the other 2 members of the New Day, but again, discuss that later in the card. So yeah, it's just 10 men, 2 people starts. Once someone's eliminated, next man comes in. I don't really have like an order in mind, but I'd probably end it with Buddy Murphy winning.
Wow.
I do like Buddy, and I think Buddy is someone who is one of the best just out and out wrestlers. Obviously, he doesn't have the much on the character side of things, but I feel like I want to build the light heavyweight division on performance, not so much on character. But obviously, you have the fun people like Crash Holly and Jimmy Wang Yang, Jamie Noble, all great wrestlers, but also have a bit of like more to them. But yeah, just have Buddy Murphy win over that one. He'd get another opportunity down the road. But all these people at some point or another would be battling for the light heavyweight championship. So yeah, just wanted to get a really hot start with just the best that the light heavyweight division has to offer, just like battling out.
I had ahead of time, I had taken your roster and I made some notes of like what I would potentially see you doing, what I would potentially do. And I had a very similar kind of thing going on. I had some different people though. I thought that this might have been where you had put like Neville, maybe Ricochet, Tajiri, Austin Aries, a couple other people like that. Can't go wrong with a match like this though.
I mean, you can wait. There's more to come from the light heavyweight. There's more to come from the light heavyweight division.
I will say I also had taken inspiration from the Cruiserweight Open from WrestleMania 20, because that's just a great idea and a great way to get a lot of guys on the card.
Thumbs up.
Right. Then we have the first of our 2 battle royals across the 2 nights, the women's battle royal. Now, I wanted to do some things with some of these women in singles matches, but I didn't want to overload my card with just matches which would just be thrown. I wouldn't say necessarily thrown together, but I felt like I've gotten like a group of singles and tag matches together on the actual main card, but I was looking at things like I was like playing about in my head about maybe teaming Molly Holly and Nikki Cross up as the 2 like superhero gimmicky characters, and then maybe taking on either Fire and Desire or Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. There was something playing in my mind about teaming Alexa Bliss with Sensational Sherry, but obviously it'd be more themed Alexa Bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'd be a bit like crazy ones in that regard. But I felt like none of those matches really appealed to me as like strong enough for it. And I'll get to my actual like the women's matches that I ended up putting on the main shows later on. But for right now, the women's battle royal consisted of 16 people: Alexa Bliss, Dakota Kai, Emma, the Fabulous Moolah, Ivory, Layla, Mandy Rose, Mia Yim, Molly Holly, Nikki Cross, Piper Niven, Raquel Gonzalez, Ruby Riott, Sensational Sherry, Serena Deeb, and Sonya Deville. And my choice would be that Raquel Gonzalez wins, because she is the... I see a lot of potential in her. She's obviously one of the biggest women in the match. It would make sense to her to win a match of this stipulation. The winner of this match gets a shot at as naturally would be for the women's championship going forward. And yeah, I think it's just a good opportunity to establish a big woman in like a big battle royal environment. It just makes sense to me that that'd be the one you go with. You could have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of tag teams that kind of can be made, and that I would use in the tag team division further down the road.
A big person winning a battle royal makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Again, that's the first of the battle royals. We'll also have a men's equivalent, but we'll talk about that when we get to night 2. But yeah, those are the 2 like pre-show matches that would go on before the main card takes place. But yeah, I just took the approach of I want to get all 100 people on the card.
Yeah.
So that means some people would just inevitably end up in a battle royal.
And they're fun too, you know.
Oh yeah, they can be a lot of fun as well. And yeah, and as long as I actually like attach stakes to them in terms of like championship opportunities, then I think they're worthwhile. Rather than just a trophy that doesn't get you anything afterwards.
Especially not a trophy with that design.
Yeah, admittedly, I couldn't even do that one because Rob has him on his actual card, so I can't do an Andre one.
No, about the other one, the
the one
one.
that had a giant pair of ovaries. Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the main show. So I haven't really ordered these in like how I'd say like, oh, this goes first, this goes second. I've just got a list of them based on, I guess, order of importance more than anything else. So this would be the first actual women's match, and this one doesn't have a title at stake, but I feel like you could get a really good rivalry match out of this one in terms of the powerful, dominant heel against an underdog, plucky babyface. And that would be Beth Phoenix versus Candice LeRae. I just feel like Beth was in an era where, if she was in an era where there was a gluttony of top women's performers at the time, then she would... I'd almost be celebrated even more. I mean, I know she's celebrated because she was like one of the only ones that era that really could show up and perform in the ring. But going up against someone like Candice, who I feel is underrated to a degree, but knowing what I've seen of her in the independent scene, what I've seen of her in NXT, I think she has one of the greatest women's matches in NXT history with Io Shirai. So I would say put those 2 together, have Beth be the dominant heel, but aggressively throwing Candice around. Candice fights back, does her like more high flying offense and tilt the worlds and all this other cool stuff. But I'd probably end up having Beth just squash her down, because I was annoyed about the fact that Beth Phoenix rarely won at WrestleMania and was having to job to people like Maria Menounos. So I'd throw her a bone and give her the victory over Candice LeRae.
Not the match I was expecting Beth Phoenix would end up being in, I'll say, but I totally would be down for seeing it. Can't go wrong with it.
Arguably one of the best matches you could ever put her in. So, kudos.
And if you're going with who's going to be, like you said, like the plucky underdog, I mean, Candice. I love Candice as like the underdog babyface kind of scenario, so yeah.
And then we move on to a match that we have actually seen in reality, just not under the best circumstances. It would be, I'd build these 2 people up with pretty consistent, maybe not unbeaten streaks, but they rarely lose. And they're kind of positioned as very dominant on the brand and win a lot of squash matches and all that other stuff. It'll be Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre.
I knew it.
Match that we have actually obviously seen at the Royal Rumble, but that's with Goldberg in his like approaching.
Really?
60.
Huh.
I knew that was going to be on your heart for some reason. I don't know why.
I think that it would be just. I don't imagine this match going very long, but as they've proven in the past, these two work best in like 5-6 minutes matches where they just beat the shit out of each other. Obviously, Drew can go a lot longer than that, but like one of the best matches that I think he's had in his entire WWE run was the 5-minute match against Brock Lesnar. And so I would say that you have him against Goldberg. They just big move after big move after big move, spears. This is Goldberg in his prime as well, so he can actually do more stuff than what he does do. So he can do like his like knee bars and stuff like that, and pump handle slams and all this other cool stuff. But it's just literally just two guys beating the shit out of each other with big moves and kicks and headbutts and all this other stuff. I don't want to make it no DQ, but it would be a case like these two would just spill out of the ring and fight for ages, and the referee just wouldn't count them out. He'd just let them go for a while. And then eventually I would have Goldberg beat Drew McIntyre. Because Goldberg, even though he's the more limited in-ring performer, is the bigger deal. And I wouldn't have this even like necessarily heel versus babyface. I would probably just say, even no matter what alignment these two are, they would just have this match at WrestleMania just to prove which one of them is the more dominant. More dominant in their kind of field as like these two completely muscle-bound destroyers of men. But I really would rather see this match under the ideal circumstances than what we saw.
And if you can put them in their primes and stuff, it's definitely going to be better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then I move on to, well, just a match that they could do. They're not going to. Or it doesn't seem like they want to do this, but it's a match that WWE absolutely could put on right now, and I want to see it more than anything else. Cesaro versus Walter.
I knew that was on your card too.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not have Cesaro versus Walter?
Yeah.
And like the fact that they have the opportunity to put this match together, whether it's in NXT UK or just get Walter over to the States for one show, it baffles the mind, because Cesaro's one guy that could actually probably throw Walter around a little bit, while Walter would just dominate him with chops and kicks and do all his core offense. This is just like the match that, okay, it's really one of two matches on the card where you just go, these two are two of the best in-ring workers going right now. Go out there, you've got 20 minutes, destroy each other, do all the coolest stuff that you possibly can do, and make the crowd believe in you more than anybody else at this point. And I would have Walter win. I think this could be the start of a feud, or could be a long-term thing between these two, where I could see these two constantly coming back to each other to always be dominant. Eventually, I'd have this as like a world title match, or at least like an Intercontinental or United States title match. Because, yeah, I think Walter is a bona fide main eventer, and Cesaro should be built to that level as well. And they've never done that with him. So, but yeah, I feel like this would be, just for my own like personal appreciation, I'd have to have this match, and I want to see it. I want to see it more than any match really going in WWE right now.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
The interesting thing there to me is that you got a lot of good people for Cesaro. You got Benoit. I saw Benoit Cesaro. I thought that's a match I want to see. But yeah, like you got Cesaro and Walter. If you have Cesaro giant swing Walter for about 20 rotations, I don't think you need to do anything else for the whole night. Like that would pop a crowd so big. So that's a fantastic match.
I was kind of thinking you with Walter, if you weren't going to go Cesaro, because I figured Cesaro is the closest to Dragunov, and I know that your fondness of Dragunov versus Walter, because it was a great match, that like that the only other options would have been Walter against either, like, put him up against like Joe or Goldberg. But I was like,
Goldberg-
I think he's going to go Walter and Cesaro.
Goldberg did cross my mind, and so did Drew McIntyre as well. But I thought I want Walter to have an actual extended match because Walter can do that, and I didn't want to limit him with Goldberg. Like, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, Drew can really like do well with Goldberg, and they can have that really bang fire 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes done match, just big moves. Whereas these two can tell a story a bit more, and I feel like that's the match where you just go all the high spots and everyone go home, gets excited and happy about that. But this is the match where people just sit down and just watch it, and they drink it all in throughout the entire thing. So
you do have a lot of options that could be fun here, like Walter Rusev, Walter Benoit, Walter Bryan.
And inevitably, Walter against anybody is a match that I just want to see. Like him against anybody that I haven't seen him against is a match that I want to see.
Yeah,
you got Kurt Angle, which
Styles.
I'm sure would be
Yeah,
just great stuff. And we had said it when we did the draft, but your roster was perhaps the most in sync roster of our three rosters.
But yeah, we'll see once we get to the rest of these ones. But okay, I want to tell a story about this one a little bit. So, in doing a bit of light research into this, I found out, and I think this is accurate, but can't 100% quote me on it. But from what I gathered, at least through online, there has never ever been a match between Ric Flair and Bruno Sammartino. Because in real life, they absolutely hated each other.
Huh.
And they refused to work with each other. Ric Flair was predominantly in the NWA when Bruno was going, and Bruno was in WWF. So they never crossed paths. And by the time Rick came to WWF, Bruno was retired. And probably not in speaking terms of WWF because of the way they treat his son, but we'll by the by with that one. But it just seems crazy that these two people that kind of headlined their eras for the promotions they worked for never had a single match. So I thought, okay, I've got to correct that. Let's just do Bruno Sammartino versus Ric Flair. But then I realised I had about 20 odd matches on the card at that point. And I also thought Bruno's style was not going to be for everyone at this point. Because Bruno is great for his era, but times have moved on. And Rick adapted a bit more to that. But again, Rick's style, may not be as flashy for everyone. So I thought, what sort of match can we put together that has them in and still get the crowd excited? How about a match where you don't have to do a lot of flashy moves? A match where you don't have to, where it's more just brawling and submissions and rubbing someone's face against a steel cage. How about War Games?
Ooh, all right, it's taking a different direction.
With those two as the team captains, and that means I could throw a lot of good guys into the mix as well that I'd previously had other matches and ideas for, but then I thought, okay, this is really cool for me. So War Games match at WrestleMania, it's never happened before, but War Games is now under the WWE umbrella, so I could use that match type, so why wouldn't I? Ric Flair will be the heel team, and on the heel team, he would be joined by the Steiner brothers, Timothy Thatcher, and Bad News Barrett. And then on the babyface team with Bruno Sammartino, have the Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk, Pedro Morales, the guy that he essentially passed the torch onto, and Kerry Von Erich, Texas Tornado. And the fact is that these guys are all, I mean, obviously more on the heel side. The heel side are more like, these guys can work great matches. The babyface side are more limited in ring, I would say. But this match is all about just beating the shit out of each other and making the other one submit, and you don't really need to have a lot of technical prowess to do that. So I thought, yeah, just put the heels and the babyface against each other, do all that cool stuff for a War Games, plenty of blood, plenty of colour, and then you'd eventually have Bruno force, not Ric Flair, because I would want to build to the singles match eventually, but Bruno would win, forcing either like Thatcher or Rick Steiner to give up. But yeah, I thought it'd be cool to put a War Games match together. When I just clicked in my head that I could do War Games, that was the only thing I was thinking about. I was just thinking about who I would put on each team.
I mean, Flair and Bruno as 2 team captains for War Games. These aren't the teams that I would have necessarily probably gone with. I think Pedro, definitely for Bruno. And probably Kerry Von Erich, too. I don't think I would have gone with Bad News Barrett a part of there, but I do kind of like that, too, as like a little bit of a different thing here.
There were some other names I was considering. Like, I originally had Paul Orndorff on this.
Yeah.
With Flair.
Oh, yeah, definitely got to be with Flair, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I originally had Jim Duggan on the babyface side, but I thought he was a bit too much of a character for this type of match. I toyed around with the idea of Bob Backlund.
Backlund was somebody I was thinking for the heel side, actually.
All right.
I would put Bruno with Bob.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I also had Steve Williams in my mind as well for this, potentially as well. But I ended up going with, I thought Flair's team was a good blend of, obviously Flair is pretty much eternal in terms of what he's done in wrestling. Steiner, Rick, when you talk about WWE, is the mid-90s. And I thought Thatcher and Bad Barrett represented more of a modern era, whereas the Bruno team is pretty old school in general. But yeah, I wanted to include Thatcher and Bad Barrett as like the people up and coming that were like going to it. And Bad Barrett had a bit more of a edge to him by the end of his run, where he was a bit more like using the ball hammer and being more physical in that regard. And Thatcher is a submission specialist who, arguably, his best match since joining WWE has been within a cage against Matt Riddle. So I thought they fit in quite well.
That's
that
cool.
Team. But yeah, War Games. And
that doesn't sound the same as when it's not really Regal. War Games.
No. Yeah. So, what is WrestleMania without a multi-team match for the Tag Team Championships? Now, I will preface this. This is not a ladder match. There's a good reason why it's not a ladder match. And I'll get to that on night 2. But it is a 4-team elimination tag team match, which features, for the WWE Tag Team Championships, which features the champions at the time, Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, because Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley always go into WrestleMania as the tag team champions. They rarely walk out.
They don't come out.
Yeah. And they would take on the Hardy Boys, because of course, Big E and Kofi Kingston of the New Day.
All right.
And the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins.
That's a match. You know, that kind of reminds me of the 2002 Fatal 4-Way they did, and yeah, I would like to see it.
Yeah, it would just be high octane, like everyone gets involved at certain points. You'd have people eliminated. I would say I'd probably eliminate the Street Profits first because they were the youngest team and obviously they'd be more up and coming, but it's good to give them this sort of platform. And then you'd have the Hardy Boys get eliminated just because I think people would be a bit shocked by that. And you're down to a match that we have seen, but obviously under different circumstances, Bubba Ray and Devon against Kofi Kingston and Big E. I would have. It seems odd that I would actually like have Kingston and Big E. The only heels I'd have in this match are probably Devon and Bubba, because I feel like they would work best as the heels in this match. But then I'd have Kofi and Big E get the victory because New Day are great, and New Day one of the most marketable tag teams in WWE history. So I would have them get the victory. They can celebrate with Woods afterwards, even though Woods didn't get his victory in the show afterwards. But Woods could be with them at ringside. But yeah, I just thought, yeah, I've got so many good tag teams, but I really wanted to throw these 4 together in like one match because I couldn't just decide which 2 of those teams I wanted to have face off against each other. I thought, I could. Realistically, if it was a straight-up tag team match, it would probably be Bubba Ray and Devon versus Kofi Kingston and Big E. But then I realised, they actually did that feud. Obviously, under different circumstances, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit by throwing people that of Bubba Ray and Devon's era and people of really Kingston and Big E's era as well.
Yeah. And you kind of, you're replacing Edge and Christian with the New Day in there, but you're incorporating the Street Profits in there just to kind of spice it up a little bit too.
Yeah. So when I mix it up a little bit, Fatal 4-Way tag team match. And we move from that Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match into a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. As Samoa Joe walks in as champion. And he will be taking on AJ Styles and Eddie Guerrero. Because one thing that I know for certain in the past is that you put AJ Styles and Samoa Joe in a triple threat match, it's going to be fucking great. It's just who you pair him up with. And I thought, Eddie. There's loads of choices you could go with that one. You go Benoit, that's obviously going to work. Punk is going to work. Bryan's going to work. Angle's going to work. But I thought I don't shy away from the fact that I think Eddie Guerrero is one of the greatest of all time, and he's someone who I have a lot of affinity for. And I feel like his more lucha style, and he could do the play acting stuff. I think would blend well with like both Styles and Joe, who are really good like at selling stuff with their faces and things like that. I feel like that would mix up really well with these two and make it as strong as possible. Also, I wouldn't throw like Kurt Angle in because this match probably happened in TNA at some point. So I could probably see that one. Whereas Eddie never got to really wrestle. Like obviously went in 2005, so he never got a chance to wrestle these two when they were at their peaks. So I thought, like initially I was thinking just AJ against Eddie, but I thought Samoa Joe needs to be in a prominent match, and I feel like this would be the spot to throw him into. And I would have AJ win the title because, yeah, AJ's great. Why would you not have him win it?
You sold me on this one.
Yeah, I'd have Joe come in as like tweener, because Joe has always been kind of at his best when he just beats people for the sake of it. Eddie is the heel and AJ is the babyface.
Oh, heel Eddie, more so than like fun.
I love the fun like 2003,
if you watch
2004 Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie always did his best work as a heel.
If you watch Paul Heyman's SmackDown podcast in the archives, Callum and I both speak about how Eddie in 2002 seemed almost more ready to go as a main event guy than he did when he got the lowrider and all that stuff. I understand why it worked, but I'd also agree Latino Heat, like 2002 era Eddie, is probably my favorite.
He was a lot more visceral and a lot more aggressive at that point, so I thought that'd be a good mix. And I think he's the most natural heel out of the three of them, even though Joe's a great heel. But I like Joe just being take all comers type guy. And then night one would be headlined with the WWE Women's Championship.
Respect.
And see, I know that a lot of people would probably say, you've got Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. Do Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey?
I would say you have Ronda Rousey.
I do have Ronda Rousey.
I'll tell you, if I had your card, I wouldn't book Becky and Ronda.
I decided that, in essence, we've seen that match.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it had some unwanted involvement, but we have seen that match. And I thought, who was the one person that Ronda should have had a match with while she was in WWE that she never actually got around to having the match with? And so it's Ronda Rousey defending the WWE Women's Championship against Asuka.
Yeah.
Because Asuka is, when you book her correctly, there is no more dominant female that you could put, I think, up against her in that regard. And it would be like submissions, counters, strikes all over the place. It would more resemble an MMA match in regards to just pro wrestling. And I feel like Asuka, because of her skill set and just the moves and sequences she puts together, is a more natural fit with Ronda Rousey than Becky Lynch is. And so I think they would have a better match, especially if this is a Ronda Rousey who has had more than a year's seasoning in the company. If this is a Ronda that's been around for a while and has just like been in WWE, then I said it in the draft, and I say it now. I think Ronda Rousey, if she'd only worked for WWE and came straight into the company, would be the greatest women's wrestler in history. Mm. She showed enough in the year that she was there, and how quickly she picked it up, that she would have been an absolute natural. And so I would go with her. Yeah, I think her versus Asuka is the most compelling match, in my mind.
I like how as soon as you guys get to the main event title matches, that's where your true fandoms show.
We'll talk about that on night 2 as well. That might change your opinion.
I didn't think you'd go Ronda Asuka, but I thought that Ronda Asuka was going to be your backup option. I thought that you were going to go actually Ronda Beth.
Beth was an option, yeah. I felt that to me, if it was Ronda Beth, because Ronda would go into this match for me heel, and Beth is, I think, is more natural as a heel, so I didn't want to do heel versus heel. Asuka to me is babyface in this one, and I should mention the fact that Asuka would beat Ronda Rousey. I would have Ronda Rousey be undefeated as women's champion for a long time, like a year or so, and then Asuka would be the one that eventually comes up, gets the victory. And again, it doesn't need to be undefeated versus undefeated. Maybe Asuka wins the Royal Rumble like she did. And then she can really get her own back of Ronda Rousey shitting all over her actual Royal Rumble win.
And
win the Royal Rumble and then beating Ronda Rousey.
Not having Asuka's undefeated streak and Royal Rumble win lead to Charlotte's better than me. Yay!
Yeah, well, luckily you paid to that one. So that's fine. But yeah, that's the main event of night 1. So I wanted to make sure the Women's Championship was featured in the main event. I think it's only fair. And if you've got a match like that, then you would put that in the main event slot.
So back in the day, WWE pay-per-views used to be sponsored by Stridex pads and by karate fighters. Nowadays, they tend to be a lot on the Snickers side of things, Skittles sometimes with JR Pack in the past and stuff. Well, when it comes to Smark Out Moment, our pay-per-view cards are sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped.com/Smark is where you're going to want to go if you want to pick up some of the different products that they have on there and get yourself free shipping on everything that's on the website, as well as 20% off on your order. It's a huge deal for you to take advantage of, whether it's something like the replacement stuff, like your blades for your crop shaver, or if you want to pick up something like the Weed Whacker nose trimmer or the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the best shaver that I have ever used for anything really at this point. That advanced skin safe technology is called that for a reason. And I'll tell you what, I currently right now, since I'm recording this in advance, but I can tell you where I'm going to be at. I'm going to be hanging around in Brazil on my honeymoon. You think I'm going to try any other kind of products to clean up down there, keep myself nice and groomed in a really hot environment like that? On my honeymoon of all things, you're going to want to be presentable in any scenario like that, especially somebody like me in this spot. So I am very thankful that I've got the Lawnmower 4.0, that I'm not getting all sorts of ingrown hairs and cuts and anything else that might be going on down there with you using some kind of inferior products or something. You get yourself a Lawnmower 4.0, you're going to be good to go. So pick up a performance package to get everything all in one grooming kit, or the Ultra Smooth package for your preservers and your shaving care kind of kit ideas. You know, they do have some different things there, like the crop gel and the crop exfoliator and whatnot, and the little travel case. I can guarantee you I'm using the travel case right now as we speak. I'm recording this in advance, of course, as we said before, but you know what? I'm glad that I picked that up while I could. So I recommend you do the same thing here. Go to manscaped.com/Smark. That way you let them know that we're the ones that sent you their way. You get yourself the 20% off and the free shipping on all these things. You're going to enjoy the products. I wouldn't be telling you otherwise if I didn't believe so. So thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring us. Thank you to everybody who does participate in this type of sponsorship. And it helps out grow the channel. It helps yourself out because you're getting these products. And yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. We are going to go back to the pay-per-view card right now.
Then we move on to night 2. Start with the pre-show men's battle royal. Basically, just the men that I couldn't find a spot for on the actual cards. Even though if I'd throw more matches together, then maybe. But I didn't really see the appeal in a lot of these matches together. So men's battle royal would be Austin Aries versus Bob Backlund, Kurt Hawkins, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, James Drake, JTG, Cassius Ohno, MVP, Paul Orndorff, Rhino, Shad Gaspard, Shane McMahon, Steve Williams, Zach Gibson, and Zack Ryder. And just for the sake of nostalgia, I'd have Jim Duggan win. Because it's a battle royal, and that's his.
Yeah, that's
that's where he's at home. And it's not a match of real consequence anyway. I mean, this match will probably, again, it would lead to like a WWE, either a WWE Championship match or one of the mid-card title matches. And even though Jim Duggan wins, you could build Jim Duggan up for a one-shot feud. That's fine. He's not the greatest worker, but he's super over with the crowd, and so that would get a big pop at the win. And yeah, it's just a bunch of guys who I did look at ideas for. Like, I had thoughts about putting Bob Backlund in a more like traditional wrestling match, and there's a lot of tag teams in there, but I didn't really think that Shad and JTG had the star power to be in their own tag match, and same with Ryder and Hawkins, same with the Grizzled Young Vets. I couldn't think of anything that MVP would do on his own. I definitely wasn't going to put Shane McMahon in a singles match.
Was Mustache Mountain on that list?
Nope.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Was Tito?
Nope.
Okay. I'm just like, I lost track of some of the people that had been on there. Eventually, I'm going to have a thing on the screen for everybody that's, for all these things.
But, that's it's just a big cacophony of, like, the other guys, essentially. So that's the pre-show Battle Royal. Then we move on to the main show. And now, just the tag match that I thought would be super fun, because I feel like we needed... There are two, like, straight-up traditional tag team matches on this card, because I thought, even though that Fatal 4-Way for the tag titles looks like a lot of fun, I think you needed some... I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, and so I felt like we needed some more traditional ones. And I just threw together this match because I thought this would be a lot of fun, and it could be a number one contendership match for the tag team titles. But just frankly, it would be a lot of fun to watch. It would be Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven against the frenemies of Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic.
Huh.
I didn't want to put them together in a match because they are as good as a tag team as they are as rivals. And I've seen them like wrestle in the indies with that. I've seen them. This is actually close to a match I've almost seen in real life. I saw at a Progress show in 2019 a match between Tyler Bate and Trent Seven versus Keith Lee and Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Limitless Bros, they were called at that point. But I would put those two together because I feel like they'd be a really dominant tag team as well. But then they would also just feud with each other. They would just have matches against each other. I almost see that as like the equivalent to what Pentagon and Phoenix were for a little while, which was like two brothers that would obviously team together, but then they'd be just thrown together in a match and just beat the shit out of each other.
And work well, singles work well as a tag team.
Yeah. And I'd have Lee and Dijakovic go over on this one. Again, I don't know who would strictly be the heels on this one. I think obviously Lee and Dijakovic probably lean a little bit more to it that side. But I think it would just be, again, it's just a lot of fun just throwing these two teams together. There's really nothing more, no justification beyond the fact that, like, yeah, I'd really, really like to see this match.
Me too.
Yeah. Then move on to, well, go ahead.
No, just adding that I would also like to see that match.
Yeah.
Me three.
And it's a match they can actually do. So, if they want
they still can.
Then, I mean, there was an obvious feud that was, like, screaming out to me that I don't think needed to involve a title because you could make it super personal. And that is CM Punk versus Jake the Snake Roberts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You have the straight edge, obnoxious, loudmouth CM Punk against the recovering alcoholic Jake the Snake Roberts.
I like it.
You have Punk talk about how he's always been straight edge and Jake Roberts has fallen off the wagon more times than he can count. And you say that you basically have Punk teasing with drink constantly. You could even do a storyline where Punk almost takes Roberts under his wing to help him recover. And then just builds up the fact that, like, he's just using Roberts to do his bidding. But then that just eventually it just clicks with Roberts. He turns on Punk. He just rediscovers the cerebral side. I would like it to be like a Roberts of his body and like in the 80s and his inimitable promo style and unbelievable mind for the business combined with his now sober mindset. because it's just. And obviously he's gone back and forth a little bit, but at a time when he was, I guess, happy and content with life. Because I don't want it to be like too much like imitating life, that type of thing.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't want to be a situation like they did when Punk feuded with Chris Jericho and they actually poured real alcohol on his face. I would like it to be. You can say it's alcohol, but it's actually like
apple
just
juice
coloured
or
water.
Apple
The coloured
juice,
water or something. Yeah, and it's just like But I would just have Punk be the sinister evil one out of these two. Even though Drake's obviously great as a heel, I think Jake's work is actually in WWE works better as a babyface.
Me too, in a lot of ways.
I think it was a really good, like, almost underdog story. Like, that was part of the reason why he never really feuded with Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan was worried that Jake was going to get more better babyface reactions than him. And so I would have Jake win that match as well, because even though Punk is probably the better worker out of the two of them, even though Roberts was great, I would say that you need to have the good guy go over in that scenario. I wouldn't try and pull the wool over anybody's eyes with that. Now, there was a reason why I didn't have a ladder match on night one for that tag team title. And that's because we're bringing back to WrestleMania Money in the Bank.
Huh.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
I didn't think about that. Fuck.
And so we have 8 men battling for the briefcase. They are Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Adam Cole, Rob Van Dam, Chris Benoit, Aleister Black, Rusev, and Tito Santana.
Tito stands out to me a little bit, but I think he'd be a great person for that kind of spot too.
I wanted to put someone who was in a bit of a past, but also had some sort of like high-flying attributes to him. And I thought Tito was a good fit for that. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it wasn't just like new guys wrestling in the Money in the Bank. But most of these guys have been in this match before or have experience in ladder matches. Obviously, Rob Van Dam would be the crazy spot guy. Same with Owens. Aleister Black would do some cool things. Benoit would just be throwing people around with suplexes. Rusev would be like the dominant force in that one. Adam Cole would be the guy that would kind of like just try and sneak up the ladder occasionally when like everyone else had cleared the ring. But obviously he's a great wrestler as well. But he would be more of the real chicken shit heel out of these ones. And Tito could do like some cool spots as well. I assume that he would never have had a match in his life that involved the ladder, especially with 8 guys involved. But I'm pretty sure he would be able to adapt. I also wanted him to be on like an actual main card because like he's the winner of the first ever WrestleMania match. So I wanted to make sure he was prominently featured. And I would have Kevin Owens win because I think Kevin Owens is awesome and he should be a world champion at some point. And he obviously is a world champion in real life as well, but like actually like given a respectful reign.
Yeah, he should be able to hold it for a while.
And also, the guy who wins Money in the Bank should be a heel, realistically. And I think Owens does his best work as a heel. So yeah. But I just want like a real big spot fest with all these guys involved.
Love it.
Yeah. We have what I obviously dubbed the Liberty Championship, mid-card women's title, which would currently be held by Becky Lynch.
Okay.
Babyface Becky Lynch. Obviously, she's heel now, and she does a good job with it, but Becky is great as the underdog, like, anti-authoritarian babyface. And she would take on Jazz. Because Jazz is a kick-ass bitch. And I think her and Becky Lynch would have a really physical fight with each other. And I don't say it would necessarily be hardcore or any sort of like street fight or anything like that, but I think they could both pull it off if it was a street fight. And it would just be, these two. Whereas Ronda Rousey and Asuka is more, obviously it would be a lot of striking, but it would be very submission based as well and all that other stuff. These two would just be a slug out fight. And I would have, I'd have Becky Lynch retain. Like Jazz being like the really like physical brute that she's trying to get the belt off of her, but Becky's able to withstand it. It's almost like Jazz is built up to be super dominant, and you have Becky Lynch just like withstand everything, kick out of every big move, if you do a street fight, take every chair shot or go through all the tables, but just won't quit. do the like Austin middle fingers spots or anything like that, and just eventually have a get her in the disarmer, wrap it around a chair or a chain or something like that. Jazz eventually taps out. I feel like that would be a really good story.
I am not as big on Jazz from like a different era type of a thing or something, but so I can't appreciate as much Jazz at her peak. But I do know that that's a blind spot on my end because Jazz has made a career far beyond what I had seen from her. If you put Jazz from what my perception is against the man,
it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can see it.
And we also have the Women's Tag Team Championship match. And so I thought that a good team to either be holding the belts or challenging for them, but most likely be holding it going into it, would be the Sky Pirates, Kairi, Sane, and Io Shirai. And they could be part of a faction with Asuka as well, but like, I feel like that was the, even though I love the Kabuki Warriors, I thought this was the more dynamic tag team out of the trio. And then I paired together just a thrown together tag team that I just thought, well, this is quite interesting. I think their gimmicks could be kind of aligned and could do some cool stuff together. Paige and Victoria.
I could see it. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I think they've got similar aesthetics. They can do more of like the more aggressive, like I wouldn't say like psycho type thing, but they are more like that was the characters that Victoria at very least portrayed, and I think Paige could definitely fulfill a similar role. And yeah, I'd be totally cool with like Victoria and Paige winning this one and just be an aggressive heel tag team taking on Kairi, Sane, and Io Shirai. Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun because these four can all work. They'd put some good spots together. Yeah, there's nothing really much else to say other than the fact that I just thought that's a really fun tag team idea, putting Paige and Victoria together, like in their primes. And I was always going to do something with Kairi and Io together. Initially, I was thinking maybe they'd do some sort of 6-woman thing with Asuka as well, but I thought I'll have Asuka win the women's title, have them be the tag team champions, but they lose it on this show. And just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. I like the idea of Victoria and Paige being together. Because it was
a really good idea.
When we wrap some things up, I'll talk about how that was something that I had down as like a potential, like, I think I could see myself doing that if I had your card kind of a thing. And I ended up like not, I didn't put as much thought into it as you did, obviously, because it's your card. But I was like, yeah, maybe these two. Like I was kind of pairing up some different tag teams. I like that.
Then we have the light heavyweight championship match. And I'm taking a little bit from TNA here. Because TNA used to do some really fun 6-way matches for the light heavyweight championship where you'd always have 2 people in the ring and 4 people on the outside coming in. So it would be elimination style, as is the traditional in TNA. It would be the champion at the time, Finn Balor, taking on Ricochet, Neville, Kushida, Ilya Dragunov, and Tajiri. Because I looked around the roster and I thought I pretty much couldn't go wrong with the light heavyweight division. I thought these 6 are my favourites, so let's throw them all together in this super busy, just bang bang match where it's just like 2 guys are in the ring and they're just doing all the high spots. They tag out, another guy comes in, does loads of high spots. It would just be, and you've got a blend of stuff as well. Like Tajiri can do some really cool like submissions and kicks and strikes. Ilya Dragunov will throw his body around, do a lot of suplexes and throws. Kushida is obviously one of the I don't think we've seen it enough in WWE, but when he's like in the right environment, can be one of the most like dynamic workers ever. Ricochet will just go crazy. Neville will just go crazy. And Balor is there as like, he's a guy who obviously could move up and has done in real life WWE, but I feel like he'd be best played as like the ace of the light heavyweight division. But I'd actually probably even have him retain this one here as well. Just because even though there's a lot of cool guys in this one, I think you need to establish Balor as like, this is his division. he makes the light heavyweight division, and so he bats away all challenges, and eventually that builds up to someone eventually taking the title off of him, and that makes it more of a big deal. But yeah, I just wanted 6 guys to do the fun flippy stuff.
Who were the 6 guys again? It's Finn Balor, Ricochet,
Pat,
Neville, Kushida, Dragunov, and Tajiri. Yeah, but yeah, just a super fun 6-way match. And then we have
light heavyweight, not cruiserweight, right?
Yeah, light heavyweight, yeah. And then we have 2 singles matches to round off the night. And anyone that's keeping track at home knows who these 4 guys are. Just what configuration am I going for? United States champion Kurt Angle defends against Daniel Bryan.
Yep, I had that down on my count's gonna do that one.
Right.
Because why the fuck wouldn't you do Kurt Angle versus Daniel Bryan?
Mm-hmm.
It's a match that they said they wanted to do. I think realistically they should have done it as part of Kurt Angle's retirement tour. It just would make all the sense in the world to have done that. But yeah, in their prime, a prime Kurt Angle who just legitimately just has the greatest matches. It's one of the greatest matches of all time against Daniel Bryan, who in his prime also had some of the greatest matches in WWE history. Just put them together. And realistically, again, it's a case of like, if you had access to all the cards and stuff like that, my match is Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Just because I just feel like that's the case. And in those circumstances, if I had access to everyone, it would be Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart and Daniel Bryan against Chris Benoit. Just because I feel like Bryan and Benoit fit a bit more to the style, but I think Kurt Angle's the bigger name. Bryan is the bigger name as well.
I'm sure we'll get there when we merge the cards.
Those will be things that we'll be definitely talking about in some fashion, because a lot of those are pretty, like, yeah, why wouldn't you, you know?
Yeah, but you just have those 2 together. You let them go 30 minutes almost. I wouldn't say it shouldn't be submission or anything like that. Just let them go out, do the things they do. Like, yeah, and I don't think there's any question in mind that it might be like one of the greatest like technical matches of all time if you put those 2 together in their prime.
But your main event.
Well, of course, the main event.
Yeah,
let's put it this way. There's a reason I picked the first 2 people that I picked first. It's because one of them is the most mainstream wrestling personality in history. And the other one is one of the best minds and one of the most recognizable voices and faces, bodies, whatever you want to term it, in wrestling history.
Very clearly, you're going with Goldberg versus Road Warrior Hawk.
Yes.
What a rush. No, it has to be The Rock defending the WWE Heavyweight Championship as a heel against Randy Savage. Also, I should mention the previous one that I have Daniel Bryan beat Kurt Angle. I feel like it's passing of the torch for me. But WWE Heavyweight Championship, The Rock as a heel defending against babyface Randy Macho Man Savage. I like heel Randy Savage. I like babyface Rock. I think Rock is just infinitely more disposable as a heel than Randy Savage is as a heel. And Randy Savage has Miss Elizabeth, and that kind of makes him babyface.
And The Rock could be like, you know, being all like the way that he, you know, the pie stuff or whatever with Miss Elizabeth, like,
yeah, you could really
like
build it around
pervy on that kind of side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just because this isn't going to be. It would still be a great match because these 2 are still great, and like Savage would book this match to every single fine detail. But it's just a case of, I think that these 2, like I said on the draft as well, I think Randy Savage is like, if you type in like professional wrestler in just a machine, and it just says create me that,
yeah,
it creates Randy Macho Man Savage. It's just like the blueprint for what a wrestler sounds like, looks like, acts like, performs, everything. Whereas The Rock is just like a box office phenomenon, and there's a reason for that. The promo battles leading into this would be incredible. The vignettes, you could do the stuff with Miss Elizabeth, like Tony says, and then it gets down to the ring, and it's even though it won't be as good a match as something like Cesaro versus Walter and Kurt Angle versus Daniel Bryan, it will get more of a crowd reaction because The Rock and Savage know how to build a match that won't be technically as good, but be more emotive and storytelling wise than pretty much anything you can do. And you have Randy Savage win the title, celebrate with Elizabeth, celebrate with the title. And yeah, I just feel like that's the biggest match I could have put on, and so it was the first match that immediately popped into my head. And there's there's a reason I picked those two first. I was always going to go, once I'd picked those two, that was going to be the headliner of my show.
So when I was looking at your roster, that's what I ended up going with as well. I was like, all right, The Rock against Randy Savage makes a lot of sense. There are still other options you could have gone with, too, that would have been great. Like, you could have played into CM Punk versus Randy Savage. Do a little bit of something with that. Rock against, like, Samoa Joe. Rock against, if you want to, like, bump him up a little bit higher on the card or something, but, like, Rock against, like, a Kevin Owens, I think could be a lot of fun. Randy Savage versus Kevin Owens could be a lot of fun.
I would say, there was a lot of great options. I would say, just personally, that there was only 4 people that I ever considered for the world title match outside of The Rock and Randy. Well, alongside The Rock and Randy Savage, they were 2. The only other ones I thought of putting in the world title match were Kurt Angle and Walter.
Like Kurt Angle versus Walter for the title?
Well, no, it'd be one of those 2 against The Rock or Randy Savage.
Ah.
It was always going to be one of them. Was always going to be The Rock or Randy Savage, just depending on what sort of variation I would do. Is whether I wanted to go like, if I wanted to keep Rock babyface, say, then Walter and Angle made more sense as heels in my mind to go up against him. But I decided Rock's great as a heel, and Randy would be better as the babyface in that one.
If you would have done that, would you done Rock, Walter, Savage, Angle?
No, I would have kept Angle and Bryan at that point. I couldn't have done Savage against Cesaro because that just wouldn't have made sense. I think I would have done some like mixing around and stuff. I'd probably put Savage in the IC title match in some configuration. I maybe put him against Styles, just that, and then move Guerrero and Samoa Joe into the United States title picture or something like that. But yeah, definitively, unless I decided at the last minute to swerve and go, I love Walter and I love Kurt Angle so much that I would love to see them in the world title match, it was always really going to be Rock versus Savage.
So can you do me a favor then? Can you go on that all-time roster draft thing? I'm going to send you a link here on our Skype thing. And can you add your card? We're going to keep our cards, like, put them together for different things for us to keep track of a little bit, because I don't want to lose track of who is in some of the multi-man matches and such.
Yeah.
A lot of fun stuff on this card, though.
Yeah, really good card. I would love to sit down and watch it and just forget all other things in life, because that's just a great card.
Yeah, I wanted to make it, like, appeal to me more than anything else, really. And I think Tony's card, obviously what we've done beforehand, is more playful than my one.
It's a little more of like the gimmicky, like, let's play into characters type of thing, where you've got matches where it's like Walter and Cesaro, where it's just like, all right, you don't have to know anything about these characters. You can just be somebody who's casually watching, like you bunch of people get together to buy the pay-per-view, and somebody's like, hey, you want to watch? And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. And then you just see Walter and Cesaro beat the shit out of each other, and they're just kind of like, all right, I'm a pro wrestling fan now, you know? But then you got more gimmicky stuff, like the Punk and Roberts, which is just like a chef's kiss type of a scenario. That's perfect to do Punk and Roberts.
Yeah. And honestly, these cards so far are very true to form. You know, Callum seems to have gone in with a game plan, or at least the best game plan he could have possibly put together. And so far, I would say, as an overall card, I've enjoyed his just a little bit more. But honestly, again, 300 of the best names in wrestling history. How can you go wrong with either of them?
What's your standout from Callum's card? Like the one match above any of them that you think would be like the coolest or whatever?
You know, it's hard because like that 6-pack challenge for the Cruiserweight title comes to mind, but then you've got like there's a War Games on this card. And then you think, yeah, well, that's fine and well, but how can you go wrong with The Rock and Randy Savage cutting promos on one another? You know, so I think it's the main event. Admittedly, I would have swapped it. It'd be heel Savage, babyface Rock.
I'd have gone heel Rock, babyface Savage.
Yeah, I think again, it's not something that you can really go wrong with either way. It'd still work out. But yeah, I thought Rock just leaned more naturally into the heel side. But yeah, as I say, like just putting those two together in the ring, I just don't think you could go too wrong with that. And yeah, I think pretty much all of the matches that I had booked, outside of like obviously the Battle Royals and stuff like that, because they're just there to. Everyone likes Battle Royal occasionally. Just because every other match I would just love to see happen. So it is pretty much like my personal fantasy card, rather than thinking of like I wouldn't care. I mean, I know that would be impossible, but I wouldn't care if like anybody else sat down and watched this and thought, "Oh, this is terrible." As long as I enjoyed it, it was worth it.
You know what though? Realistically, you did the best of both worlds because you've got a card that's just cohesive and compelling, but it's so you. Like your fingerprints are all over this card, you know, and I really enjoyed it.
I would say the most surprising match on your card that I didn't see coming was Beth against Candice.
Yeah. It's a little bit left field, but I had a lot of good women that I'd chosen. Like I was thinking I was going to put Beth against someone in a singles match because I think she's just great. But it was whether do I go Beth against Molly Holly? Do I go Beth against Raquel Gonzalez and do like two powerhouse women? Do I go Beth versus Ivory, someone from a bit more of like an old school thing, or go against Sonya Deville because Sonya's got more of an MMA background? But I thought Candice never doesn't get the love that she deserves for being just so great in the ring, and so that was the one that just immediately sprang to me as like, yep, that's the underdog I need for this match.
Jazz and Becky was also a very not hard, but like a shocking, wow, you put those two together. Wouldn't think about it, but when you sit down and think about it, it works.
I was thinking, looking at the thing, I was like, I'd probably end up going Beth and Becky for one of the championships. And Asuka, Io, and Kairi Sane in a triple threat.
Yeah, I did toy around with that idea of putting the Joshua Rinska, but I wanted to have women's tag titles.
Yeah, incorporating tag titles, the Sky Pirates or Kabuki Warriors or Kabuki Sky Pirates, whatever you want to, if it was a trios kind of thing or something. Once you incorporate tag titles, you got a couple good themes. I like that idea of Nikki Cross and Molly Holly as a tag team too. I like the Sensational Sherry and Alexa Bliss one if you're going with the current Alexa Bliss. And Fire and Desire, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. Yeah, you got a couple different tag teams you get to do like a good run up to a tag team title match kind of thing. Victoria Page, like you said.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that division is more stacked than it is in actual WWE. So
that's good. Again, that's not that hard.
Well, no, of course not. But
it was when it started.
Yeah,
it has since declined.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of just. Yeah, I don't really know much else to say other than the fact that that's the card. I would have so much fun watching it put together, and I might just in my spare time throw it together on Fire Pro Wrestling and just have fun sitting down and watching it and just go, this is. I wish we could see all these things.
So we got some battle royals. We got some championships, a very evened out kind of championship scenario, one world title. You got some mid card stuff, the women's division represented all around. You got a gimmick thing with War Games and Money in the Bank. 4 women's matches, if I'm counting correctly. 4. Wait, 1.
5.
5. Yeah, because Battle Royal.
Including the Battle Royal, yeah.
So representation for the women's division there. I would ideally
want to do one more, but yeah.
I like it. I'd totally be down for seeing this.
Yeah.
If only it was real.
If it was real, Benoit wouldn't be on this show. But yada
yada. Probably.
For a lot of different things here and there, you start getting into the Ric Flair stuff. You get into the what's the Jake Roberts situation like? It's just yeah. But
it's
fantasy.
I
live in a fantasy world where all wrestlers are saints. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to live in that world as well. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, tell us what you think about Callum's card.
Yeah.
Any other stuff
praise.
You want to toss out there?
Throw me praise.
Yeah, I think he deserves
any criticism will not be tolerated.
That's right.
That's kind of that's me shooting straight from the hip.
That's right.
Any other elements about I don't know. I know you said that you didn't plan out 100% feuds, but I'm kind of curious who might be the next challenger for the WWE Championship.
I would say you go with. I mean, obviously the men's battle royal thing was meant to crown another one, but that'll probably just be on TV. I think the real next feud would be either Walter or Goldberg because of the matches that they won. I'd say I'd probably go with Goldberg because you do the dominant thing with him against McIntyre and you build him up to take on Randy Savage, and that's where I'd see Goldberg get one of his rare losses because I'd have Savage hold the title for a while. Why not? Walter makes sense to me as someone to take the title off of him. Angle makes sense, but yeah, I'd probably go Goldberg as the next real challenger for the title.
I love me some Macho Man as champion.
Yeah, and I'd probably then have on the women's side, I'd probably have I'm trying to have a look quickly. I'd probably have Beth Phoenix after beating Candice LeRae go after Asuka. I think that would make sense.
Beth and Asuka would be a lot of fun.
Yep.
A match they could still do too. Not with the same intensity, but that's their fault.
Just do it. Yeah, just do it. I'd be happy even if I mean, to be fair, I'd just be happy if Asuka was on TV. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, she might be. I don't know. Maybe tonight. Maybe she comes back. The second part of the draft happening later on tonight from when we're recording this. But yeah, hell of a card. Thumbs up on my end.
It's definitely overall these two recordings and stuff like that, and just from the draft onto this has been some of the most fun and most interesting stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm really loving doing these things. I hope that everybody else is as well. So definitely let us know. If you're enjoying us diving deep into these fantasy things and you want us to do more of them, I mean, we like doing the more fun things. It's a lot more fun to talk about the fun stuff than to get into just bitching and complaining about the same stuff all the time or whatever. So,
one might even say good things are good.
Good things are indeed good. Tell us what you think about Callum's card. Drop your comments below. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. So stay tuned for the other things that are coming your way. If you want to help us in the monetary side of things and you want to make sure that we do stuff like this in the future, the Pick Your Poison tier, all the Patreon and the members only stuff, there's the little like button, has the thing next to it that's got the thanks to it, the little money sign thing that's like a little tip jar. There's TeePublic and Redbubble for picking up some merchandise options. I don't know, maybe we do some kind of there was old school pay-per-view cards. Maybe we make up some t-shirts that are these pay-per-view cards and do something like that. If you think it's cool and you might pick it up, let me know. I'll actually put in the effort to do it. If you don't, then I won't. It's as simple as that. I'm a busy man. So whatever's going on in WWE right now in November, hoping it's good stuff and you guys are all enjoying it. I hope that you guys have fun with the next couple parts that are happening here. Rob's card is coming up next for our release for recording these things. I don't know when we're going to record it, probably sometime in the next 2 days or so, and you guys are hearing it a month from now. But Rob, you got some competition with some of these things.
Definitely got some stiff competition. I will say, as a wrestling fan, loved hearing your cards. I believe mine will be true to form, so there will be wrestling, there will be nonsense. I mean, it's just what you get when you get me. So, yeah.
I'm very curious.
Wrestling and nonsense.
I'm very curious what you're going to do about some things. So yeah, that is happening next, and then we're going to roll along after that with the combined roster. We're going to sit down and try to look at all 300 of our people and the potential of bringing in some other people that we didn't necessarily get a chance to draft, if that's something that we think might be good. And then we're going to settle between the three of us in our like veto kind of mode of our top 150 that we really, really want to make sure is on the card. So you're going to see a lot of people that are on these personal cards that aren't going to get a chance to be on there. Like honestly, I can't spoil anything because we didn't record it yet, but I got a feeling we're probably not going to end up having 3 votes that like Kerry Von Erich will end up being in the top 150, for instance. But he finds a good spot on the War Games thing here for Callum's card. I have no idea how it's going to work out. It's going to be a lot of fun though. And then after that, then we're going to settle down and we're going to all 3 decide on our ultimate all-time roster WrestleMania 2-night card scenario. I don't know. You might see some of these same matches. You might see some things that are completely different. But stay tuned for those things. They are all happening on smarkoutmoment.com, so you follow us at smarkoutmoment all over the place. Follow our individual stuff as well. Follow me at Tony Mango. Follow the Fanboys Anonymous content over on fanboysanonymous.com, like the YouTube kind of side of things and the website stuff. It's all Fanboys Anonymous related pretty much for the most part, except for Twitter's Fanboys Anon. But head on there, do that stuff. Follow what these guys have going on as well. Follow Callum over there at Wigmaster14.
Yep, follow me on Twitter, Wigmeister14. Check out Smark Out Moment. Check out the Power Rankings. That's my week-to-week written contribution for the website. We've discussed it in the past, but if you're interested in more retro-style content, which features a lot of people that were mentioned on the card here, then check out both 2001 Wrestling Odyssey and the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast over in the Smark Out Moment archives. And yeah, and I'll pass you over to Rob.
Yeah, that is me. And as always, it's November. Talking Survivor Series, talking Full Gear. And we're doing all that over on Fightful.com. Check out Fightful Select, because I'm sure Sean Ross Sapp has all the scoops. And follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one where you will hear my card.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this. As always, thank you for all of your support, and we will see you when we see you. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.